Another article has come out claiming Ncuti Gatwa has been axed from the role of the Doctor, and guess who it's by but The Sun, the most reputable of news sources. If you couldn't detect my sarcasm there, it should be fairly obvious. The Sun is probably the worst tabloid in Britain, so I will not take this seriously, and I'm going to tell you why all of this is probably inaccurate. But before we get into it, subscribe if you're new. That'd be greatly appreciated. We are trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, and we cover regular Doctor Who content here on the channel. Any support would be greatly appreciated in helping us get to that goal. We're going to try and get to it by the end of the series. I don't know whether we're going to make it, but I'm going to try my best. But with that said, let's get right into this. So The Sun ran this front page today, very provocative, basically claiming that Ncuti Gatwa had been axed from Doctor Who following him pulling out of Eurovision. Now this is likely wrong for several reasons, but let's get right into it. Exterminated, Doctor Who's wokest ever lead star Ncuti Gatwa axed after just 2 series, with show to be paused after ratings nosedive. Nice, politically neutral headline there. Insiders believe a streaming giant, which has pumped millions, will not renew its deal. Doctor Who star Ncuti Gatwa has been axed by the BBC after just 2 series. Quote-unquote woke storylines have seen the ratings plummet. The actor is off after 2 series, with no replacement likely for the Time Lord's regeneration on May 31st. Fans have turned off amid plots about incels and characters such as non-binary aliens. When was there a non-binary alien this series? Was it Maestro, I guess? But that was last year, but even then, you might want to talk to Alpha Centauri. Anyway, the news comes after Ncuti 31 backed out of announcing the UK's jury scores in last weekend's Eurovision Song Contest, amid controversy among some at Israel's inclusion. A TV insider said, if the final nail wasn't already in the coffin, it was well and truly hammered in after that. Bosses were incredibly disappointed. Ncuti as the Doctor is one of the corporation's most high-profile faces. His withdrawal was incredibly embarrassing. It caps what has been a largely depressing tenure in the TARDIS for Ncuti. I can call this BS for a few reasons. For one thing, if Ncuti Gatwa was to leave, that decision would have been made long before the Eurovision Song Contest and long before he pulled out of Eurovision Song Contest. As well, we don't actually know what his reasoning officially was for pulling out of the Eurovision Song Contest. Obviously, this article hypothesizes that it was to do with Israel's inclusion, which is very much possible, but we don't actually know that. But yeah, if Ncuti is leaving, which I think it's fairly likely he will, given that obviously he's doing a play currently, and there's likely not going to be any time for him to film at least until next year, I think it's fairly likely that he will be leaving, but it won't be because of Eurovision. It'll be because Disney didn't renew the contract, so rather than waiting, he's decided to move on. It'll have nothing to do with Eurovision. What this is effectively the Sun drawing 2 events together and going, see, they're connected, when in reality, I find it incredibly unlikely that that will have had really any impact over the decision at all. One said, it's unlikely we'll see who Ncuti regenerates into, as the Beeb will keep options open, and if they do rest the show for years, it makes it virtually impossible to cast someone now. Ncuti Gatwa appeared with Millie Gibson as the companion Ruby Sunday, and returning showrunner Russell T Davies were announced with high expectations in 2022. But viewer figures fell to 1.6 million, down on 10 million when David Tennant and Matt Smith were the Time Lord. Well, that phrase is wrong for several reasons. For one thing, 1.6 million is the overnights, and David Tennant and Matt Smith were never pulling 10 million in the overnights, so it'd be more accurate to say that they fell from around 7 or 8 million consistently in terms of consolidated numbers down to around 3-ish million, which, yeah, you might say is a drop, but bear in mind that's over the course of nearly 20 years. Nothing is getting the viewing figures it was getting 20 years ago. One episode saw Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor admit he was gay. I don't think he does say he was gay. Like, yeah, he likes men, but like, I don't think he ever goes, Belinda, there's something I need to tell you. I'm gay. Villain Maestro drag queen Jinx Monsoon was among flops. I also find it really funny that they've mainly based this on last year. Like, it shows to me that the person who wrote this hasn't really been keeping up. The BBC said last night, as we previously stated, the decision on Season 3 will be made after Season 2 airs, and any other claims are pure speculation. The deal with Disney Plus was for 26 episodes, and we still have an entire spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea, to air, and as for the rest, we never comment on the Doctor and the future storylines. So yeah, that's literally the exact same, quote we've had from the BBC for a while now. Obviously, we're only a couple of weeks away from the end of the series, so we're going to find out officially either way. Personally, I don't think this is worth the paper it's printed on. I think that this is pretty much just the Sun taking what is already pretty commonly speculated information and constructing a narrative around it. As I said, if Ncuti Gatwa had decided to leave, that decision will have been made months ago, and the Eurovision Song Contest will likely have had nothing to do with it. As I said, it's much more likely that due to Disney's delay in renewing the deal, he probably decided not to wait, which would be a shame, but it's much more likely than the BBC axing him because he was too woke or something, especially after the recent controversy they've had with Gary Lineker and letting him go. I highly doubt that they would do that again. I had to briefly pause filming because for some reason there was massive construction work going on for about 30 seconds outside my window. I'm not sure what it was, but anyway, yeah. For those people who will say, oh, well, why did you trust the Mirror's article, but then when the Sun's article says something you don't like, you don't trust it? And it's very simple. One of them has a track record. Nicola Metvin has a track record. Nearly everything she's reported on has been accurate. And even that doesn't say that Ncuti Gatwa is staying on. The other is the Sun. You know what I mean? They're on different levels. One of them is someone with a track record. Admittedly, the Mirror themselves will report on everything, but I'm more focused on who is writing these articles. And Nicola Metvin herself has a near perfect track record, so I completely believe the Mirror's report that the show will continue. I don't believe this, that Ncuti Gatwa was dropped because of dropping out of Eurovision. It doesn't make any sense for the reasons I outlined. It's also really funny that they say that, Ncuti is one of the biggest faces of the corporation. Ncuti, as the Doctor, is one of the corporation's biggest faces and, one of their main mascots, but yeah, they would want to cancel Doctor Who long term. That also doesn't really add up when you think about it. None of this really adds up or makes any sense, so I'm inclined to believe that this article is just completely nonsense. Like I said, it seems like someone at the Sun has seen the speculation around Ncuti Gatwa leaving, has seen, that the decision hasn't been made on Season 3 yet, and has seen that Ncuti Gatwa dropped out of Eurovision and went, I know what we could do, let's put all this together and put it into an article. That seems to be what this is. I'm not going to believe it. As I said, we're only a couple of weeks away from official confirmation of what's actually going on, and I will be relieved to actually have some sort of official word on all of this. But yeah, don't trust the Sun. If there's one tabloid I can tell you definitely don't trust, it's for sure the Sun. I also find it funny that of the few woke things they actually mention as a reason why it's woke, one of which was last year, one of which was the series opener this year, to be fair. And then the other one is just a scene that doesn't exist. There's no scene where Ncuti Gatwa goes, I'm gay, everyone. It doesn't happen. But let me know what you guys think about this. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.